Quest for the Lost Powers is a brand new Ninjago book which released today. This book is 100% canon to the events of the TV series and follows up the events of the Crystalized Ninjago season. Since it is canon, I'm going to be reviewing it as if it is canon, and I have some issues. I think this book is an absolutely monumental disappointment, but not for the reasons you might think. I think it's disappointing not because it's poorly written for the most part, not because there's some major plot hole which the writers somehow didn't catch, but because it's really good. This video will contain very heavy spoilers for the book, by the way, so if you haven't read it yet, go read it. This book takes in-depth looks at the 4 original ninja and the stories of how they got their powers back by conquering certain obstacles within themselves. I think this is a fundamentally bad concept, and this is because Ninjago is a TV show. So, to recap, at the end of the Crystalized season, the ninja lose their powers after creating the Golden Ultra Dragon, and then the elemental powers of creation return to where they came from. After this, Master Wu assures the ninja that one day their powers will return. The original 4 ninja now no longer have their elemental powers, and they're gonna have to fight without them for a while, or so we thought, because this book resolves that plotline. My issue with this lies in the fact that LEGO Ninjago is a TV show, and because of this book, viewers going from Ninjago Crystalized to the 2023 season are gonna go from the ninja don't have their powers and now have to fight without them to Kai can shoot fire out of his hands again, no problem. And guess what? It's gonna be really confusing for those viewers. The ninja losing their powers is part of the main plotline of Ninjago and was the last open thread from the Crystalized season. Elements of the main plot should not be relegated to books like this, because the majority of Ninjago fans are not reading books. You'd be surprised. One of my friends the other day just found out that the Prime Empire shorts existed. Do you think that the majority of fans are going to be reading some random book? One pretty common counter-argument I see over this is I think it's good that they're putting it in the book, because do you really want to see another story of the ninja regaining their powers? And all I can really say is that Roots was an 11-minute long episode, of which they wasted a tenth of on this Lost Powers stuff. If they didn't want to do a Lost Powers story, why would you waste a tenth of your series finale setting one up in the first place? I just don't understand how this can be construed as a good thing by people. The show picking up and dropping plot lines randomly with no thought for storytelling only makes for a more incoherent show. If you don't want a Lost Powers retread, do not set one up. It's that simple. My opinion is that LEGO Ninjago, from its very inception, was a TV show. If you have to go to a book, or a tweet, or an interview to understand what happened with basic plot elements from the previous season, then the showrunners have fundamentally failed at their job. You shouldn't have to read a book to understand the plot of a TV show. The TV show should be able to stand up on its own. What do you mean, little 7-year-old Timmy who didn't know the book existed? What do you mean you don't know how they got their powers back? That's your fault for not doing your homework and keeping up with the extended universe! Buy the book next time, idiot! Sure, you can just assume that these things happened off screen, but like, why? The entire appeal of storytelling is seeing how characters get from point A to point B. Why would you take that away from the show to sell a few extra books? And another question, where does it end? At what point does it become enough? For example, if Season 7 came out today and they relegated how Wu got back to Ninjago within a book, do you think there'd be people going around saying, oh, well, it's actually fine that this happened because Lloyd did say they'd get Wu back. Plus, we've already seen the ninja get back a lost friend before, so we can easily make some assumptions. I'd sure hope not, because that's basically what's being said here, and it's ridiculous in both cases. I know Ninjago wants to go into having an extended universe, and I really do appreciate that, but this is not the way of doing it. The stories told within the extended universe should be supplemental to the TV series, not be essential reading. I know Chris Wyatt said that you don't need to read Lost Powers to understand the upcoming series, but I just don't see how that can be the case. Because of course we need to understand how the ninja went from being powerless to being powerful again. It's really hard to talk about this book because there is so many great stories within it. There's an excellent story in here about Zane confronting the traumatic memories that he has from his time as the Ice Emperor, and him having the realization that despite all of the manipulation from Vex and the corrupting scroll of the Forbidden Spinjitzu, Zane was still there and was still fighting. Even despite all that, he is still a good man, and I think that was a very powerful story. Cole had a really great story arc where he realized it's okay not to feel like you're at your A game all the time. And he realized this because Lou told him a story where his mother Lily felt very similar. However, she was able to ground herself via the emotional support of her family, in which something similar would happen for Cole in this book. Jay has this lovely story where he grapples with the fact that he never met his birth mum, and that he feels like he deeply missed out on some essential growing up experiences. And in comes Unagami, who has very similar feelings, although he's a lot more content with them. Over the story, these two characters bond, and this is actually fleshed out, which fixes one of my big problems with Prime Empire, leading to this really sweet conclusion that just kind of says Jay and Unagami view each other as brothers now, which I actually really like. I think this story is genuinely wonderful and really heartfelt. Oh yeah, then Kai has this really mediocre story where he once again realizes that powers don't make a hero. Definitely the low point of the book. What's so disappointing about this book to me is that they had all of these wonderful stories under their belt and they thought, no, these aren't worth putting in the show, animating, giving music to, voice acting. We'll just put them in some book that the vast majority of Ninjago viewers will never ever read and get to experience. Even though, and I'm being completely unironic when I say this, the stories seen in this book are genuinely some of the best character development that Zane and Jay have had in actual years, and feel like genuine, natural expansions of the characters that tie them together really, really well. So seeing it get relegated to a book the majority of fans will never read is so disappointing to me. I wish we could have seen an alternate reality where these stories would have actually been animated by WildBrain and voiced by the actors, because I know they would have done so well with these stories. I get that these stories wouldn't have worked in actual Ninjago seasons, or you would have had to dedicate a season to it, but maybe you could have took the story as is and turned each of them into a 15-minute long mini-movie, something like that. I would have happily taken the opportunity to see Brent Miller voice this Ice Emperor story in the book than any of the mediocre Zane detective plots or pirate plots we've had in the past 3 years. It's just a shame because this book has so much going for it, and the fact that nobody thought this stuff was worth putting in the show, but another unfunny, quirky Zane personality story, or seeing Wu regain his confidence for the 5 millionth time is just such a waste to me. Excluding the Kai story, this book is pretty damn good, and if you really want to see these characters get expanded on more, I would recommend reading it. I don't know if I'd recommend buying it to you all, because I really don't want to financially support this book, because it's not the direction I want Ninjago to go in. I want these wonderful stories to be told in the show where the majority of fans can access them, rather than in some book maybe 10% of the fanbase is going to be reading. That being said, if you can find a way to read this book without buying it, like say getting it from a library or borrowing it from a friend, I would highly recommend you give this book a shot. And if you don't care about whatever your financial support will cause the direction of Ninjago as a franchise to go in, which is completely fine, then yeah, I would say this book is worth your money as for the most part, it is very well written. Apart from Kai, the central characters here all feel believable, and the story writers did a good job at making you care about them and want to see them succeed. The way they actually get their powers back does a really good job at tying back to what makes the characters emotionally resonate with viewers in the first place, and generally feels like a very natural continuation of their character arcs. This is one of the few examples of a piece of modern Ninjago media where Jay's focus is my favorite. The only problem is I just wish these stories were told in the actual show and not a book that very few Ninjago fans will actually be reading, let alone even knowing exists. Because what's here is genuinely wonderful. Be sure to let me know what you think of Quest for the Lost Powers in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye for now.